So now today we will discuss what is calibration. Okay, so what is the technical definition for calibration is, so calibration is a process of comparison of measurement values given by the device or instrument under the test with those of the calibrated standards, okay, which is known as, or these calibrated standards are of known accuracy, okay, and it is known as the calibration. Okay, if you went in the market in order to, or to buy some vegetables or something, okay, then the farmers or the merchants will have these kinds of weights with them. Okay, so these are the standard weights, we can call this as a standard weights, and these weights are universally accepted. Okay, so these weights are universally accepted. So this first weight is of 100 grams, then this is 200 grams, 500 grams, okay, and such that, so these are the calibrated weights, okay, sorry, these are the standard weights, okay, and these weights can be calibrated, these weights can be compared with another, let us consider with another some substances, like let us consider if some farmer is, he is not having this 200 grams of weight, okay, then what he will do, he will pick a stone from the ground or on the road, and it will nearly, the weight of the stone will be nearly equal to the mass of that stone will be nearly equal to this 200 grams, okay, then what he will put one stone, that stone on one part of the balance, and at the other part of the balance he will put this 200 grams of weight, okay, then if the balance remains stable, then what is the meaning of this process? So what are we doing? We are comparing the stone picked from the ground, okay, with the known standard. Okay, so this is the known standard. We know that the weight, the mass of this weight, the mass of this measuring block is 200 grams, okay. So with the help of that calibration or balancing process, what we have done, we have compared the known standard with the unknown mass of unknown mass of that substance, okay, and then he will give this weight to the person who belongs to this, okay, or who owns this 200 grams of mass, okay, and the farmer will have his own stone of 200 grams, okay. So this process is known as the calibration process. It is nothing but the comparison of the given value or value given by the device or instrument of that balance with the known standards, okay, with good accuracy. So this is nothing but the process of calibration, okay. Now here is one of the common examples and the common process of calibrating the Bourdon tube pressure gauge, okay. Generally every instrument has to be calibrated, okay. After regular intervals of time you have to calibrate the instrument that are with you, okay. Unless, or if you do not calibrate those instruments, then what will happen? So there may be some error that we are not getting it, okay. So because of that, what happens? So suppose a substance that are you buying or you are selling, okay, that substance may get less in mass, okay, or sometimes that substance may get more in mass than the required, okay. So because of that, what will happen? There will be loss of either the customer or the loss of the owner, okay. So in order to avoid that, we have to calibrate each instrument after regular intervals of time. Okay, so calibration of this is the Bourdon tube pressure gauge. Now this is the gauge under test. Okay, we don't know if this if this Bourdon tube is calibrated or not. Okay, we want to calibrate this Bourdon tube. We want to compare this Bourdon tube with the known weight, okay, of or standard weight of the any other any standard weight. Okay, so this is the process. Okay, so what is there in this diagram, you will see these are the pipes, okay, or oil filled chambers. Okay, so this is nothing but a oil filled chamber completely. The hatching lines are nothing but the oil. Okay, then a piston is there. So this is the grayish colored rectangular block is nothing but the adjusting piston. Okay, or they may call it as the screw pump. When we rotate this screw, the piston will advance, and if we rotate this screw anti-clockwise, then the piston will come back. Okay, then this is the primary piston of area, capital A. So this is the black colored piston is there, which has the surface area of A. Okay, and above that we will have to put the known standard of accuracy. Okay, we will have to put the known mass or known weight on this platform. Okay, so mass upon area, it will be, or it is nothing but the pressure. Okay, so with the help of this we can calibrate, and here is the oil reservoir. Okay, so I will explain this diagram completely. Okay, so first of all, very first step of this is to put this Bourdon tube, fix it on this oil filled chamber. Okay, one end of this oil filled chamber we have to fix this Bourdon tube. Okay, the second part of this chamber is having the oil reservoir. Okay, extra oil we have to put inside this pipeline or inside this reservoir. Okay, and third opening is of this piston. Okay, primary piston of area A. Okay, so this is the third opening, and this complete assembly, it is connected with the piston. Okay, at the other end of this assembly there will be a screw mounted piston is there. Okay, so first what we have did, so we have fixed this Bourdon tube over here. Okay, then oil will be filled completely inside this oil chamber. Okay, there should not be any air gap present inside this complete assembly or complete pipeline. Okay, then this piston will be at rest, it will be kept here. Okay, it will be this gap will not be there from this assembly or from this end to up to this platform. Okay, the piston will be lowered. Okay, and this screw has to be at the extreme outer position. Okay, so that what will happen, the oil will be filled completely into this assembly. Okay, then now first step to calibrate is we have to put the known weight on this area, on this platform. Okay, so we know how much is the weight we have kept on this platform. Okay, so note that weight what we have taken. Okay, so suppose a known weight of let us consider 10 kg that we have kept over this. Okay, known mass of this much is the mass. Okay, or let us consider for easy recognition, we will, for the easy calculations, we will take the newtons. Okay, we will consider the force. Okay, so let us consider 10 newtons of force we have applied on this platform. Okay, now divided by the primary piston of area capital A. Again, this area is known to us. Okay, the instrument manufacturer have to provide how much is the area of this piston. Okay, primary piston and its area, that is again a known value. Let us consider the area of this piston. Let us consider it is 100 centimeter square. Okay, as this is a small piston, let us consider it is 100 centimeter square, or could be less than that also. Okay, depending upon the shape of this or diameter of this piston. Okay, so this may vary 100 out. Okay, so now we have calculated, we know how much of weight this plate is of. Okay, and how much is the area of this platform or area of this piston. Okay, so these two terms are known to us. Okay, now this force upon area will give us pressure. Okay, we know that pressure is equal to what is the formula? Pressure P is equal to force upon area. Okay, or Newton per second square is the unit of pressure. Newton per meter square. Okay, here we have centimeter square. We will have to convert this centimeter square into meter square. Okay, unless and until we do not convert this centimeter square into meter square, our pressure value will be different. Okay, there will be some conversion factor in order to convert this centimeter square into meter square. Okay, now we know how much the weight this platform is carrying, then how much is the area of this platform, or how much is the area of this piston. Okay, these are the two terms known to us. Okay, now the next process is to tighten this screw. Okay, we will have to tighten this screw so that what will happen, the piston will advance in this direction. Piston will move forward in this direction. Okay, after filling oil into this reservoir, we have closed this valve. Okay, I have not told this point, but we have to close this valve. Okay, otherwise what will happen, the piston or the oil inside this chamber will get out of this reservoir. Okay, and we want to calibrate this Bourdon's tube with the known standards. Okay, so this is not preferred, or this is not the good thing in our experiment. Okay, so this valve has to be closed after complete fuel, after we have completely filled this oil chamber. Okay, now after advancing this piston, what will happen, the piston or the oil inside this chamber will exert pressure on this piston also, it will exert pressure on this valve also, and it will exert pressure on this Bourdon's tube also. Okay, what will happen, the oil filled inside it will move up into this Bourdon tube. Okay, Bourdon tube is generally a C type of shape is there. Okay, the C type of shape or Bourdon's tube plate, or that oval shaped tube, will completely filled with this oil. Okay, and as this piston lifts upward, we have to record how much is the reading on this Bourdon's tube. The pointer will deflect. Okay, as we are applying pressure on this oil, the oil will again exert a pressure on this Bourdon's tube also, and on this primary piston also. Okay, because of that, what will happen, as this piston moves upwards, or as this piston lifts the weight kept on it. Okay, so the meaning is that the piston have completely raised how much is the weight placed over it. Okay, the meaning of this is that the pressure inside this chamber is equal to the pressure applied by this oil on this piston. Okay, so because of that, what will happen, this platform or this piston will be raised up. Okay, so after calculating this known values, we know how much is the force, how much is the area, we will have to find out this ratio. So this ratio comes out to be 0.10 divided by 100 means 0.1 Newton per centimeter square. So this much is the pressure coming on this piston. Okay, we will have to convert this centimeter square into meter square. Okay, and after completing, if suppose the value comes equal of or this pressure that we have found out with the help of this known weight and known area, if this ratio and the reading shown by this gauge, if these two values or if these two records or if these two readings, if they are same, then we can say that the Bourdon's tube is calibrated or the Bourdon's tube is accurate, or we can say that the pressure gauge that we are using is accurate. Okay, so this is the simple experiment of Bourdon's tube, calibration of Bourdon's tube pressure gauge. Okay, so this is one of the simple experiments in engineering. Now we will move for the next slide, but before that, if suppose this gauge is not showing the proper reading, okay, if this reading coming out from this calculation differs with this reading on the Bourdon's tube, if these two readings differ from each other, then we will have to replace or we will have to calibrate this Bourdon's tube pressure gauge. Okay, in calibration we will have to replace some parts, those are defective. Sometimes the spring effect of this Bourdon's tube is the main cause of the error. Okay, or sometimes there will be not proper lubrication in the sector gears and the pinion gear located, which is present inside this Bourdon's tube. Okay, so we will have to replace these parts and we will have to calibrate or we will have to maintain, we will have to service this Bourdon's tube pressure gauge, and after that we can use this Bourdon's tube pressure gauge again. Okay, so this is the simple experiment of Bourdon's tube or calibration of Bourdon's tube pressure gauge. Okay, now next is the need of calibration. What is the need of calibration? Why we need any instrument to be or to get calibrated? Okay, so first point is to maintain the quality of production. Okay, if we are measuring something, or if suppose these instruments that we are using are not calibrated, and if we are using those instruments on the production line, okay, then what will happen? There will be some errors while we produce some products. Okay, so in order to avoid those errors and in order to get better quality of the production, we will have to maintain all the instruments that are being used while the production. Okay, so in order to maintain the quality in production, we need calibration. Then to satisfy the requirements of global trends. Okay, what is the global trend right now that we need to satisfy? Then to meet requirements of ISO guidelines. ISO guidelines are the international standard organization. They have mentioned some guidelines, and if any organization is not following the guidelines of ISO, then it is not of the global quality, or it is not of the global what we can say, it is not of the global market trend. Okay, so in order to meet the requirements of ISO guidelines, we will have to calibrate our instruments. Okay, then to promote international recognitions, then for tracking back measurement results of national standards. Okay, what are the national standards are there, we need to track them. Okay, so this is the need of calibration. Then again, it fulfills the requirement of the traceability of national and international standards like ISO 9000 and ISO 14000. Okay, it is a proof of instrument is working. So calibration report is nothing but the proof that your instrument is working properly and it is in working condition. Okay, so it reduces rejection, failure rate, and thus it will give you higher returns. Okay, so it improves product and service quality, leading to satisfy the customers. Okay, and energy saving. So with the, if we calibrate our instrument, then we can save our energy. Okay, otherwise what will happen is, suppose you are going to some grocery shop, okay, and the balance they are using is not, let us consider it is not calibrated, then what will happen, the any substance that you are purchasing from the grocery shop, it will be measured with the help of the owner's instrument. And if you come home and if you measure that substance with your weighing machine that is present in our home, you suppose that there is some difference. If you bought some 5 kgs of some product, and after coming home, if suppose that product is having a mass of 4.5 kg, half kg of mass is, let's consider it is absent, then what you will do, you will go back to the owner, or you will go back to the grocery shop and you will ask for the extra half kgs of that substance. Okay, so by doing in this complete process, your energy is wasting. Okay, so this is the need of the calibration, that in order to save your energy. This is just a common example that I have given. There are many other examples also in the industry. We or on the production line, we will have to put our extra efforts in order to get the better quality. Okay, and if the instruments are not properly calibrated, then what will happen, so the workers working on this production line will not get the better quality of the product. Okay, or let us consider, if the chef or a person working in the kitchen, if the instruments or the tools that the chef is using, if those instruments are not proper, then you cannot expect better quality or better taste of the food. Okay, so this is nothing but one of the examples that I have given. Okay, again, cost can be saved with the help of the calibration, and it is safe. Okay, so these are the needs of the calibration. Then we will go for the next, that is the comparators. Okay, we have studied what is calibration today. Now we will go for the comparators. So comparators are nothing but the precision instruments. With the help of comparators, we can get precision, very much accuracy the comparators will give. Okay, so it is employed to compare the dimensions of given component with the given standard. Okay, suppose any industry is demanding you, or some vendor, so they in the industry, what is there, so if suppose parent industry is there, and that parent industry is releasing some projects to the child industry or children industry. Okay, so in that process, what happens, the parent industry will demand the quality of product. Okay, let us consider surface finish of any product has to be specified. Okay, the surface finish is specified, and if the children industry is not providing the components which are prescribed or which are recommended by the parent industry, then what will happen? So they will reject those components that are produced by the children industry. Okay, so what the parent industry will do, they will release or they will give a specific product or the standard product to the children industry, and they will say that you have to produce the workpieces or you have to produce the jobs with the same accuracy as the given standard. Okay, and if the accuracy, if the quality is not as specified, then what will the parent industry will do? They will reject the products or they will reject the workpieces produced by the child industry. Okay, so this is employed to compare dimensions of the given component with the given standards. Okay, then it is employed to find out by how much dimensions the given dimension differ from the known data. Okay, you suppose the parent industry is demanding a rod of 10 centimeters. Okay, and if the children industry is producing a metal rod of, let us consider 9.5 centimeters, then what is that? So there is difference of 0.5 or 5 mm of rod is lesser in size. Okay, so what will happen? So the prescribed dimension of the rod is 10 centimeters. The child industry is producing a rod of 9.5 centimeters. Okay, so 0.5 centimeter is the dimensions that are produced by the child industry are not same as prescribed or as specified by the parent industry. So in this process what happens? The dimensions differ from the known data. Okay, so because of that there will be no quality in the product and the parent industry will reject those components. Okay, so to avoid this we will have to compare the given standards and the produced standards or produced job. Okay, we will have to compare dimensions of both. Okay, so this is the function of comparators. So now principle of comparator is nothing but, so comparators generally work on this principle. So a standard workpiece will be here placed. Okay, so the comparator is having one plunger, so this plunger can move upward and downward. Okay, so this plunger can move up and down. Okay, and let us consider this is the height h1 which is specified, which is a standard. Okay, so the parent industry will say that we want a standard component like this whose height is h1. Okay, so and the workpiece, this is the workpiece produced by the child industry. Okay, in this what is happening? The plunger, now the plunger is kept on the workpiece surface. Okay, suppose the parent industry demands this much height. Okay, from the bottom, that is the height is h1. Okay, and the workpiece produced by the child industry, now you can see this line and this line, there is little bit difference. Okay, so this much is the extra height produced by the children industry or child industry. Okay, because of that what will happen? So there is extra material present over the workpiece. Okay, so this comparator will give you different value. So this value is closer to 1, here the value is 0. Okay, and in the second diagram the value is closer to 1 unit. Okay, so this much is the difference, and the parent industry will reject this component. Okay, because this component or workpiece produced by this child industry is not satisfying the standards given by the parent industry. Okay, So because of that, what will happen, they will reject the product or they will reject the workpiece. Okay, so initially comparator is adjusted to 0 on its dial with the standard job in position. Okay, so this is the standard job kept. Okay, with this standard job they will calibrate or they will adjust the 0 position, okay, on this dial. Then the reading H1 is taken with the help of plunger. Okay, so this is the reading taken with the help of plunger. So plunger is here, so this is the plunger. So plunger is kept in contact with this standard workpiece, okay, and the reading is taken, and that reading is H1. Then the standard job is replaced with the workpiece to be checked. Okay, now we have to replace the standard job with the workpiece that we need to be or that need to be checked. Okay, and the reading H2 is taken. Then afterwards the reading H2 is taken. So this is the second reading. If H1 and H2 differ, okay, then what happens? Then the change in the dimension will be shown on the dial of the comparator. Okay, and we need to what can we say, we need to give the correct dimensions of the workpiece as that of the standard workpiece. Okay, so this H2 has to be equal to H1. Okay, then and then only this produced workpiece will be checked, or sorry, this produced workpiece will be passed by the parent industry. If these heights differ, then what happens? So this dial indicator or this comparator will show some readings, okay, 1 or 2 or sometimes -1, -2 also. Okay, and depending upon that, what will happen, we will have to compare, or we will have to bring this workpiece to the standard dimensions or dimensions given for the standard workpiece. Okay, so this is the working principle of the comparator. Now uses of comparator. What are the uses of comparator? So first is laboratory standards. Okay, then working gauges. We can compare these comparators with the working gauges. Then final inspection gauges are there. Then receiving inspection gauges. We can compare these comparators, or comparators can be used for all these purposes, or for checking newly purchased gauges. Okay, so for this we can use this comparators. Okay, now classification of comparators. So first class of comparator is mechanical comparators. So in that there are 4-5 types are there. Okay, so first type is dial indicator, then second is read type comparator, then third is sigma comparator, which is one of the common comparators. Then Johnson microcator is there. Okay, second type of comparator or second class of comparator is pneumatic comparators. Then third is optical comparators. Okay, in these optical comparators we have optical lever, then ZS optimeter, GS ultra optimeter is there again. Then GS opto test comparator is again one of the modifications of previous two. Okay, then comes the fourth class of comparator, that is the electronic comparators. These are of inductive type. And last class of comparator is electrical comparators, okay, which is LVDT. In the syllabus they have mentioned this LVDT. LVDT is nothing but light variable diode type something. It is the full form of this electrical comparators is there. Okay, so these are the 4-5 types of classes, 4-5 classes of the comparators. Okay, so out of that, first is the mechanical comparators. So these mechanical comparators are self-controlled and no power or any other form of energy is required. Okay, for if the mechanical comparators are there, then these are the self-controlled and no other power or no energy source is required for this. Okay, it employs mechanical means of magnifying the small movement of the measuring stylus. Okay, or one probe will be there, and these mechanical comparators are employed in order to magnify the small movements. If suppose a surface finish or smooth surface finish is required, and if suppose on the surface little bit dent is there, okay, so in order to rectify that small dent, we can employ this mechanical comparator. Okay, so what is the use of this mechanical comparators? So mechanical comparators magnify means they will boost the magnitude of the lower value or lower dent, small dent can be these mechanical comparators can magnify the small values with the help of the measuring stylus. Okay, the small dent can be rectified or that can be shown on the dial. Okay, so that these dents can be removed easily. Okay, then the movement is due to the difference between the standard and actual dimension being checked. Okay, so this is the first class of comparators, that is mechanical comparators. Okay, in the next video we will discuss what is the dial indicator, then Reed type microcator, then Johnson microcator and sigma comparator. Okay, thank you.